Hi everyone, I hope you can see and hear me well. Good evening, good afternoon everyone. Hope you are doing fine today and we are ready to start. I see your comments. Hello. So let's start. Today we're going to talk about conjunctions and some other linking words that you might need in your writing, of course, and that you might need for completing reading tasks and use of English tasks. So let's start. I suggest that we look at the first slide and please try to guess. Just try to guess, any guesses. Try to guess what words are missed in each sentence. So there is one word or maybe two, I don't know, missed in each sentence. So let's look at sentence number 1. I really want to visit your country in spring. The borders remain closed. So what do you think? What can we put here in order to link these two parts of a compound sentence? What do you think? What can we put here? Any guesses? Подумайте по смислу, щоб підходило. So what can we put here? I really want to visit your country in spring. The borders remain closed. So, okay, let me help you with the first one. But the borders remain closed. Yeah, so we want to go somewhere, but the borders remain closed. Remain closed, значить вони ще закриті. Okay, let's read almost the same sentence number 2. I'm not sure I will be able to visit your country. Then we have a gap. The borders remain closed. It's okay. What can we put in this sentence? Sentence number 2. I'm not sure I will be able to visit your country. The borders remain closed. Okay, I'm waiting for your answers. Because, that's right. So here we have because. Let's look at sentence number 3. I'm dreaming about visiting your country. Then we have a full stop. Бачите, там у нас є крапочка, тобто речення закінчилось. I'm not sure the borders will be opened in spring. So what can we put in number 3? So we have one sentence. I'm dreaming about visiting your country. Full stop. I'm not sure the borders will be opened in spring. And surely we can put however. Great. Number 4. The borders remain closed. Перше речення. I'm not sure whether I will be able to visit your country. Ніби так і речення нормально звучить, але що ми можемо туди ще поставити? I'm not sure whether I will be able to visit your country. Що нам по значенню сюди підійде? The borders remain closed. I'm not sure whether I will be able to visit your country. I'm not sure that whether. That whether не звучить. That не можемо вставити. Let's try to think about something else. Something that we can like omit. Тобто, що ми можемо упустити, але так само, що можемо поставити, щоб речення було ще smooth, тобто, ще було милозвучнішим. I'm not sure, therefore, whether I will be able to visit your country. We have therefore. The borders remain closed. Тобто кордони закриті, тому я не впевнений тому, що я зможу відвідати твою країну. And let's look at sentence number 5. Closed borders. I'm going to visit your country in spring. Number 5. Closed borders. I'm going to visit your country in spring. So what can we put here? So what can we put here in order to make it one complete sentence? Згадуємо всі linkers, які знаємо. If, okay, and I say the right answer actually, despite. But we can say despite or in spite of. They are synonyms, so we can use in spite of closed borders, I'm going to visit your country in spring. І все ж таки, незважаючи на закриті кордони, я збираюсь відвідати твою країну навесні. So let's look at these words. So this is how we can link ideas. This is how we can link different phrases, words, and maybe clauses. So we may use conjunctions, сполучники, like but or because. We can use adverbs like however or therefore. And we can use even prepositions, for example, in spite of or despite. У нас також було гарний варіант в чаті despite. So we can use a lot of things to link ideas, like to make it more like smooth. Да? Тобто ми можемо писати окремими короткими реченнями, але ми можемо використовувати різні такі сполучники, такі слова, щоб це було більш гармонійно, гарно. І, наприклад, when you write your formal letters or semi-formal letters, remember that short sentences are not okay. Yeah, so you need to use compound or complex sentences. So let's start with the most commonly used conjunctions, and they are often associated with the acronym fanboys. So these 7 conjunctions are very very often used in English, and then they are used in order to join 2 words or 2 phrases or even more, or even clauses. So we can join words, phrases, and clauses with these 7 conjunctions. Сімома сполучниками. So the acronym is fanboys. So each letter stands for one conjunction. Let's look at number F, like number 1, F. So what is F? F means for. A means and. N means nor. B stands for but. O stands for or. Y stands for yet. And so stands for so. So these are 7 conjunctions, and let's try to put them into these sentences to recollect their meaning. So number 1, I see the correct answers, that is but. Sherry has a great job, but she is a very unhappy person. But, але, проте, однак. Great, let's go to number 2. The sun is shining brightly. The picnic was still cancelled. So what can we put in number 2 except for but? Because we have already used but. Але but ми вже використали, тому but вже не можна. Let's try to think about some other conjunctions that we can use here. The sun is shining brightly. Сонце дуже яскраво світить. Я бачу просто давайте перекладемо. Сонце яскраво світить, але пікнік досі якби відмінили. Можна було б сказати but we can use yet. Yet is like a synonym of but. Це ніби синонім слова but, але проте. And it's mostly used in formal writing and in written speech, not in oral speech, but it is used in formal writing. Let's go to number 3. The security lines are very long at the airport. You should probably leave early for your flight. And I see the correct answer, that's right, so. So you should probably leave early for your flight. So is correct answer here. Let's go to number 4. John doesn't like chicken. Then we have a gap. Does he like pork or burgers? So as you may see, in the second clause, в другому реченні, да, у нас вже змінений порядок слів в реченні. У нас стоїть спочатку does he like, тобто першим іде auxiliary verb. Який сполучник ми використовуємо, якщо змінюємо порядок слів в реченні? There is only one, тільки один з них, and that is nor. John doesn't like chicken, nor does he like. Great, let's go to number 5. I will go to Montreal, Quebec for the weekend. I'm not sure. So what conjunction can we put here? Or, that's right. Or, або. Great, let's go to number 6. Shayla works hard. She makes a lot of money. Shayla works hard. She makes a lot of money. How can we join these two sentences? Насправді ми можемо їх написати двома короткими окремими реченнями. But how can we combine them like together? We can use conjunction and. That's right. Shayla works hard and makes a lot of money. Та і заробляє багато грошей. Great. Let's go to number 7. He loves her more than anything else in the world. She is reliable and kind. And one left, останнім не залишився, that is for. So for you to remember, for means because. So you may face for in your exam, actually, and it may mean because. Запам'ятайте, що for може так само означати because, тому що. So, he loves her because she is reliable and kind. Ми можемо сказати і так, і так. But for, again, is more formal. I say the correct answer is great. Is more formal and is used in writing. І найчастіше використовується на письмі. But you may come across this conjunction. Okay, let's make it easier. We know the translation, we know the meanings. So let's try to match the beginnings of the sentences with the endings. Пам'ятаємо, в завданні 7 читання у вас є завдання, де вам потрібно продовжити речення, тобто знайти другу частинку речення. І от в таких завданнях дуже часто зустрічаються саме ось ці сполучники, щоб доповнити речення. Тобто звертайте от на них увагу. Давайте зараз подивимось, і вам стане зрозуміло, що як же ж for може означати because, а yet може означати but. Let's go to number 1. I did my best to pass my English exam. So, what can it be? And that is D. Yet I failed. Remember, yet means but. Great. Let's go next. I got a seat in the front row. Number 2. I got a seat in the front row. Тобто десь він спереду сів. So what can be here in number 2? Let me give you more time. I got a seat in the front row. Нам тут дають варіант F, and that is right. For I was really interested in the lecture topic. Якщо б не знали, що for може означати because, то воно не співзвучне. Але знаємо, що for означає because, і ми можемо це речення так і сказати. I got a seat in the front row, for I was really interested in the lecture topic. Let's go to number 3. He can speak English and Spanish fluently. Number 3 is very easy. That is E, but his French is not so good. Але, проте. Great. Let's go to number 4. Nobody expected Sam to get the job. У нас тут є nobody. Бачимо якесь заперечення в першій частині речення. Звертайте, чи нема раптом у вас чого? Чи нема раптом у вас nor? Теж ні. Nor означає теж ні. Nor did I. Тобто найчастіше, якщо в першій частині речення є якесь заперечення, і вам потрібно вибрати правильний сполучник, то дуже часто це буде nor. Nobody expected Sam to get the job, nor did I. And let's go to number 5. Everybody was eager to participate in charity. Everybody was eager. Тобто усі хотіли. Everybody was eager to participate in charity. C. But the manager. But can mean except for. Окрім когось. Тобто бачимо, що в цьому випадку сполучник з'єднує не речення, не частини речення, а з'єднує просто два слова. But the manager. Окрім менеджера. But can mean except for. Let's go to number 6. I will get my car serviced. And that is the right answer. A. For there is something wrong with the brakes. For means because. Because there is something wrong with the brakes. Ми можемо їх, тобто поставити або because, або for. The meaning is the same. It was raining heavily, and the right answer is B, so we decided to stay at home. So as you may see, they all join something, but they have different meanings. So I suggest we look at more conjunctions and at more linking words for different functions. For example, we may use them to express cause, reason, or result. We may use them to express some contrasting ideas. Yes, to express contrast. Тобто щось таке, контраст, да? We can use a lot of linking words and conjunctions to give examples. Of course, we can use linking words to express sequencing, послідовність, sequencing, and of course for adding information. We have a lot of them. Ми насправді не здогадуємося, але їх дуже багато. So let's try to match these 5 categories with these 5 sets of different conjunctions, adverbs, or even prepositions. So let's look at number 1, the most difficult, I would say, cause, reason, result. So what can we use to, for example, to explain the reason or to talk about the result or the cause? So what can we use? What do you think? What is number 1? You're so fast. And that's right. Number 1, that's C. So we can use conjunctions as because so and adverbs like therefore, thus, so, thus, as a result. We can use like prepositions, for example, because of, due to. Ми сьогодні про них всіх поговоримо, подивимось, як правильно їх використовувати. But anyway, number 1 is C. Great, let's go to number 2. What words can we use to express contrast? For example, if you want to contrast, like to compare some ideas. Number 2, and that is right, that is D. We have conjunctions like but, although, though, і ми ще будемо говорити про even though, тобто вони всі однакові в значенні. But, although, though, even though. Але наскільки я знаю, всі обмежуються використанням but найчастіше, да? Ми сьогодні подивимося, що можна but замінити і although, і though, і even though. І ваше буде writing ще набагато кращим. Let's go to number 3. Given examples. That's very easy. That's E. That is to say, in other words, that is, for example. У нас тут просто є слово for example, and that's clear that we use all these phrases to give examples. Try to use different in order to avoid repetition of for example. Try to use for instance, for example. That is to say, in other words. Great, let's go to sequencing. Sequencing – це порядковість, тобто щось іде по порядку, and we have such words as first, next, after that, then, or we can say firstly, secondly, finally. Firstly, secondly, finally are more formal than just first, next, second, and so on. Yeah? Let's go next. Adding information. For adding information, we can use conjunctions such as and, as well, to, and much more. Ми зараз про них поговоримо. So, let's start with this adding information addition. So, of course, we can use and to join words or parts of sentences. For example, I need to call Andy and find out. I need to call and find out. Actually, we can combine different parts, like we can combine verbs, we can combine nouns, we can combine even clauses with and. But we can use some other things. For example, if you want to emphasize the fact that there are 2 things, so you really want to emphasize that you are talking about 2 things at once, what do you think? What can we use? What conjunction can we use to emphasize that you are talking about 2 things together? I need to call Andy and Helen. Звичайно, просте речення, воно правильне, тут немає ніяких помилок, але how can you make it more emphatic, let's say? More interesting. I need to call, so any guesses? Both. That's right. I need to call both Andy and Helen. So we use both and together. Okay, but we can also use something else to add another fact or say that something happens at the same time. Будемо так само говорити про Andy, Kate and Helen. So what can we use? We can use to, as well as, and also. Такий набір слів, да, здається? But they are different in where they stand in a sentence. В чому різниця? В тому, що вони займають різну позицію в реченні. For example, давайте на перше подивимось. I need to call Andy, Kate and Helen. Що можемо поставити в кінці? To, as well as, or also. Що можемо поставити в кінці, після чого нам не потрібно більше нічого писати? Surely we can say to, правильно, можемо сказати to. Тобто to зазвичай йде останнім словом в реченні. What else? Що ще? And as well. Тобто to as well, вони нібито рівноправні, їх можна поставити в кінець речення to emphasize that there is one more thing or person or whatever. I need to call Andy, Kate and Helen too. Or and Helen as well. Так само і Helen. So after as well, you don't need to use anything. You can put it at the end of a sentence. Number 2, I need to call Andy and Kate. What can we put in number 2? Звичайно, ви можете просто написати I need to call Andy, Kate and Helen. But how to make it more like beautiful, more formal maybe, more emphatic? I need to call Andy and Kate as well as Helen. Так само, як і Helen. So, as well as. As well ставимо в кінець речення, після нього нічого не потрібно дописувати. As well as ставимо передостаннім словом в списку. У нас тут список імен, да? Andy, Kate and Helen. And then we put the last thing, for example, as well as Helen. Так само, як і Helen. And number 3, I need to call Andy, Kate and also. And also, так само після and можемо ставити also. And also Helen. Great. So let's look more at these conjunctions like both and either or neither nor. Actually, we can pronounce them in different ways. We can say either or neither or nor. I think you heard different pronunciations. So how to say that you are talking about two things at once? For example, about coffee and about tea. We know that we can use both and. For example, both tea and coffee contain caffeine. So when we use both and, we talk about two things at once. Тобто, в нас є дві речі, і про них дві ми говоримо. Тобто, їх двох щось стосується. Two out of two. If we talk about one thing out of two, we use either or. For example, in the morning, I drink either tea or coffee, not both. But if you talk about like none of these two things, what can we use to emphasize? Neither nor. Neither tea nor coffee contains gluten. So we call these conjunctions correlative conjunctions, and they usually come in pairs. І вони зазвичай йдуть парами. For example, both зазвичай має після себе and, тому що в нас є дві речі, мінімум, і нам потрібно and, щоб з'єднати ці дві речі. Neither, якщо в парі, то зазвичай з nor. Це ми вже знаємо. Not only зазвичай йде в парі, but also. Тобто їх варто запам'ятати і використовувати, щоб з'єднувати слова, фрази в речення. So let's look at number 1. What do you think? What conjunctions can we put in number 1? You earn an A. Get a lower grade, do your best. Earn an A – це про бали. What do you think? What can we put here? Can we put here either or maybe as? We can put whether you earn A or get a lower grade, do your best. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 is easier. John, Bill are excellent tennis players. We have two things and we talk about two things, so we use both. Both John and Bill are excellent tennis players. Okay, let's go to number 3. The professor, the students understood the problem. What do you think? What can we put here? We can put both, but we have like students. A lot of students. Якби в нас був student, було б both, but we have students. The professor, the students understood the problem. Actually, we can put a lot of. Насправді тут багато їх підійде. But here we can use neither the professor nor the students understood the problem. Okay, let's go to number 4 and 5. They're very similar. And we can use like the same conjunctions here. We can say, I not only lost the game, but also hurt my ankle. And we can also use the same in number 5. Professor Jenkins is not only patient, but also stimulating. So you can use these conjunctions not only, but also, again, to emphasize. ви можете, звичайно, написати, що professor is patient and stimulating. But in order to emphasize, you can use not only, but also. І, наприклад, якщо ви бачите, наприклад, в читанні, у вас є речення з not only, і вам потрібно його доповнити, як в завданні 7, шукайте одразу but also, бо вони зазвичай йдуть в парах. Якщо у вас в реченні речення починали з neither, шукаємо nor. Якщо починається з both речення, шукайте так, щоб було and. So these pairs, like if you know these pairs, they may help you to do the reading tasks. And the last one, we talked about this as Barbara is as tall as Mary. We talked about these conjunctions when we talked about, I think, adjectives. So I hope you don't have any questions. Let's go to some other things. Let's look at some common mistakes the students usually make in their writing or use of English. So let's find and correct the mistakes, if any. So if there are any mistakes, let's correct them. If not, just say one, correct. So let's look at sentence number 1 and let's find out whether it's correct or not. He hadn't done any homework, neither had he brought any of his books to class. Here we have conjunction neither. Neither had he brought any of his books to class. So what can you say? Is it correct or not? Actually, that is correct. Да? Пам'ятаємо, що якщо в нас є neither або nor, і воно йде після negative clause, тобто перше в нас це negative clause, да? He hadn't done any homework. So, in the second clause, we usually invert the subject and the verb. Тобто ми міняємо порядок слів в речення. Після neither, ми зараз подивимось далі, після neither і nor порядок слів в реченні змінюється. Yes? Ми не кажемо neither he had brought, але ми ставимо ось це auxiliary verb had, да? Ставимо його перед he, перед subjectом. Neither had he brought any of his books to class. Тому це не помилка. The first one is correct. Then, knowing this, let's look at number 2. А давайте тепер подивимось на друге речення. Is there a mistake or not? We didn't get to see the castle, nor didn't we see the cathedral. We didn't get to see the castle, nor didn't we see the cathedral. Also, it's a very common mistake. What do you think? What's wrong with this sentence? Of course, it's wrong. It's not correct. Даю вам підказку, воно неправильно. Where is the mistake? Де тут помилка? Be careful with double negation. Це якби подвійне заперечення. If you want to use nor or neither, remember that's already negative. Да? Тобто воно вже вам дає negative sense to your sentence. You don't need to use didn't знову. Да? Тобто не потрібно знову ставити якесь ще одне заперечення. Да? Це вже виходить double negation. Після nor ми ставимо positive. Nor did we see the cathedral. Тобто після nor and neither не потрібно ставити знову negative, бо це вже буде double negation. Слідкуйте за цим. Okay, let's go next. I hate snakes. I can't even look at a picture of a snake. I can't also. So where is the mistake here? Number 3, no, it's not correct. I hate snakes. I can't even look at a picture of a snake. I can't also. So what do we use to say can't also? Can't also, we can say neither can I. І знову, бачите, neither, і знову змінений порядок слів в реченні. Спочатку стоїть can, а потім I. Neither can. Так само і я. Тобто ось цей can also, can't also, і я також не можу щось, або не хочу, або не роблю. That is neither can I. Let's look at number 4. Jacqueline doesn't drive, nor does Gina. So is it correct or not? Jacqueline doesn't drive, nor does Gina. У нас знову є nor, знову неправильний порядок слів. Nor does Gina. So is it correct or not? Is there a double negation? No, that's why that is correct. Great, let's go to number 5. Either candidate is good. That is to say, each candidate is good. Is it correct? That's right, that is correct. But number 6, neither of the candidates are good. What do you think? Is it correct or not? Neither of the candidates are good. Neither of the candidates are good. And that is wrong, because you should remember that neither and either are singular. Yes? So we cannot use are. We talk about one. Ми говоримо зазвичай про одного. Ніхто з кандидатів не є хорошим. Yes? Neither is good. Жоден не є хорошим. So we cannot... Of course, we have candidates, да? У нас є там кандидати, і вони зазвичай збивають. Нам хочеться сказати are, but we talk about neither. Ми кажемо про жодного. Жодний, like nobody, да? Можете для себе співставити, що neither to nobody, or none, або none, да? Ніхто. None is good. Okay, neither John nor Paula can come. That is correct. And I didn't like neither of the pictures. So let me give you some minutes to think about number 8. Is it correct or not? Ми вже з вами про це говорили. What do you think about number 8? I didn't like neither of the pictures. What is the mistake here? Of course, it's not correct. And the mistake here is, again, we have this double negation. Да? Знову в нас два заперечення. Didn't і neither. If you have didn't, then you need to use either. That's right. I didn't like either of the pictures. Or I like neither of the pictures. Або вже навпаки так. But negation should be one. Great. So let's go next. Actually, we have a lot of conjunctions and linking words to express contrast. So let's look at them and let's look how they differ, як вони відрізняються. So we can use although, even though, and though, like to express contrast. After them we usually put a subject plus a verb. Тобто після них, після although, even though і though ми ставимо звичайне речення. Тобто в нас є підмет і далі в нас йде дієслово. We can use in spite of і despite of. And you should remember that after these two words, after these two prepositions, we need to use gerund or noun. Тобто, якщо у вас є герундій, то перед ним зазвичай буде стояти in spite of or despite of. Пам'ятаємо, що герундій ми використовуємо з prepositions, да? In spite of і despite are prepositions, so we need to use gerund after them. But we can use in spite of or despite the fact that, and then use a clause, subject plus verb. Але якщо ви боїтесь неправильно використати герундій, можете просто написати in spite of the fact і далі писати звичайне речення. Або можна написати despite the fact that і потім звичайне речення, якщо ви боїтесь неправильно використати герундій. Якщо вам хочеться in spite of і despite, можна замінити. Also, we can use whereas, while, and but to express contrast. And, however, even so, nevertheless, still, yet. So we can also use them to express contrast. Let's look at these sentences and let's try to read them and see how these words differ. So my brother likes team sports. I prefer individual sports. So what do you think? What linking, let's say, device can we put here in order to combine these two sentences? My brother likes team sports. I prefer individual sports. But, звичайно, можемо сказати but. Why not? But можемо. But we can also say whereas. Whereas дуже часто використовується в ЗНО іспитах. So be careful. It's the same as but. We use it to express contrast. В той самий час, як я, наприклад, люблю індивідуальні види спорту. Let's go to number 2. Dan is an athlete. He refuses to eat healthily. So what can we put in number 2? Dan is an athlete. He refuses to eat healthily. Can we use in spite of and despite? No, we can use. We can't use. But what can we use here? We can surely say although. Хоча. Although Dan is an athlete, he refuses to eat healthily. We can also use even though and though. We will see the difference between them. Okay, number 3. Only 2 variants are possible. In number 3, we have participating. If you have gerund, then you need to use in spite of or despite. And the same if you have a noun. Якщо в нас є іменник, нам нічого, крім despite or in spite of, так само не підходить. Despite the weather, they played outside. Number 5. Jane enjoys playing tennis. She doesn't like watching it on TV. Jane enjoys playing tennis. She doesn't like watching it on TV. We can use though, even though, although, they are all have the same meanings. Number 6. Also, we have a clause. У нас так само йде повноцінне речення. I live very close to work. I still drive there. Тобто в нас йде повноцінне речення, то ми можемо використати although, even though, in spite of the fact, despite of the fact. Тобто будь-що з цього. Great. And number 7. Jamie was worried about his team's performance in the match. And number 7, тут нам не все підійде. How can we use contrast? What adverb can we use to express contrast? The mostly very, very commonly used one is however. However, they ended up winning. So what's the difference between but, though, although? They all make a contrast. Вони всі виражають ось це контраст, yes? But although is more formal, though is informal. But is also more informal. Тобто, якщо ви пишете офіційний лист, so it's better to use although. Да? If you write a letter to your friend, you can use though, or you can use but to combine sentences. Be also careful that we can use although at the beginning of the sentence. We can use though at the very end of the sentence. Тобто можемо ціле речення сказати, а в кінці додати кому і написати though. I don't think it will work in practice though. Крім though, більше нічого так не можна ставити в кінець речення, тільки though. But never start a sentence with but. But it seems like a good idea. I don't think it will work in practice. А якщо ви поставите but на перше місце, то це не буде мати ніякого сенсу. So avoid using but at the beginning of the sentence. Okay. And remember that we can also use yet in the meaning of but. Пам'ятаємо, що yet так само означає but, і ми можемо так само його використовувати. In theory, it seems like a good idea, but or yet, I don't think it will work in practice. Great, let's go next. We can use despite or in spite of, і вони мають таке саме значення, як although. Різниця тільки в тому, що після although в нас має йти повноцінне речення, тобто має бути subject plus verb, а в despite і in spite of we need to use gerund. So, for example, let's look at these two sentences. What do you think? Which one is correct and which one is wrong? Number 1. Despite feeling ill, I want to work. Or despite I felt ill, I want to work. So what do you think? Which sentence is correct and which sentence is wrong? The first sentence is correct because despite feeling ill. Feeling, that is gerund. Despite I felt ill, I went to work. Це вже неправильно. Якщо у вас хочете повністю речення написати, то краще although, though, even though. Not despite, in spite of. That's the difference between them. Значення в них майже однакове, але різниця у використанні. Okay, great. Let's go next. Reason. Yes, how to express reason. We can use because. I think all of you use because a lot of times in your writing. Зазвичай because – це слово номер 1. But there are some other ways. For example, because of. We use it with gerund or noun or pronoun. Because of таке саме використання має як і despite і in spite of. Бо це, по суті, preposition. We can also use because of, on account of, owing to, due to, plus gerund or noun. Але because of можна замінити такими словами, як owing to, due to, on account of. Вони мають однакове значення. And the same, if you want to use the full sentence and you are afraid of using gerund, you can say owing to or due to the fact that. Пам'ятаєте, так само, як despite the fact that or in spite of the fact that. Так само можете використовувати owing to і due to. And one more trick here. We can use as or since plus subject plus verb. In order to substitute because. For example, I made a sandwich because I was hungry. A very simple sentence. I argued with Sarah because of you. Через тебе. Бачите, після because of you у нас має стояти noun, pronoun or gerund. Number 3. She didn't play well due to the fact that she hadn't practiced for a few weeks. Ми можемо просто сказати because. Але щоб замінити because, ми можемо використати фразу due to the fact that. Через той факт, що they cancelled the match because of the heavy rain. Because of the heavy rain. Через дощ. Because of. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. As since. Да? Тому що because має значення as since. Вони однаково мають значення. Ми зараз подивимося, в чому різниця. Anna decided not to call Phil on account of time. Через час. Ну, тобто, наприклад, було пізно. So, because and as since, they are the same. Вони однакові в значенні. Тобто, ви можете сказати because, ви так само можете сказати as і since. But we use because in informal writing, for example, when writing to your friend. But we use as and since in more formal writing. Да? Тобто замінити ось це because в офіційних листах просто на as і since. Значення в них абсолютно однакове. So, let's practice a little bit. So, let's choose the correct option. The rowing team finished last, having trained hard all year. And we have variants like though, despite, although, or since. The rowing team finished last, having trained hard all year. So we have having, so we have ing ending. So let's recollect, what can we use before ing endings? Though, despite, although, or since. B. Only B is possible, because after though, although і since у нас буде повноцінне речення, тобто у нас буде subject and verb. Only after despite in this example we use ing ending. Let's go to number 2. I enjoyed playing football. My brother prefers watching it on TV. І таке гарне слово ми сьогодні з вами вивчили, conjunction. That is whereas. В той час, як мій брат, так само, we can substitute but. Ми можемо просто сказати but we can use whereas. Whereas my brother prefers watching it on TV. Number 3. My classmates and I entered a skateboarding competition, being advised not to by our PE teacher. So my classmates and I entered a skateboarding competition, then gap, being advised not to by our PE teacher. PE teacher – це вчитель фізкультури. In spite of, also, even though, whereas. So what do you think? What can be in number 3? Again, we have ing ending, and we know if we have ing ending, we can use only in spite of being advised not to by our PE teacher. Although, even though, whereas вимагають після себе повноцінного речення. Subject plus verb. Okay, let's go next. Let's look at these two sentences and let's try to fill in the gaps. I'm calling to complain, the gap, the goods are damaged. Goods – це продукти або товар. The goods are damaged. I'm calling to complain. So what do you think? What can we put here? In number 1, I'm calling to complain. The goods are damaged. And the goods are damaged. I'm calling to complain. So in the first one, I'm calling to complain. Complain – це жалітися, скаржитися. Because the goods are damaged. And the goods are damaged. So I'm calling to complain. So in the first, we talk about the reason, because the goods are damaged. In the second one, we talk about the result. So I'm calling to complain. So we use so to express a result. But it's like very, very like often used in writing everywhere. We can substitute with the words like as a result, consequently, therefore, thus, or hence. For example, let me give you an example. Alice is a versatile athlete. Therefore, She has asked to participate in the decathlon. Тобто вона такий гарний атлет, і тому, тому ми можемо просто сказати so, but we can use also therefore, or we can use as a result, or consequently. Great. And we have two more. У нас ще два залишилось with the linking words. That is purpose and manner. Of course, we talked with you that in order to express purpose, we can use bare infinitives. To plus bare infinitives. Or in formal speech, we can use in order to plus bare infinitives. Для того, щоб. But we can also use so as to or so as not to plus bare infinitive. Or so that. Дивіться, в чому різниця. Після so that нам знову ж таки потрібне повне речення. Тобто нам потрібен subject plus modal verb. Для того, щоб. І після для того, щоб, ось це so that має бути повноцінне речення. So let's look at the examples. Verity moved to the front row so that she could see the stage. So that, and then we have the complete clause. She could see the stage. But we can use, for example, infinitives. She went online in order to or to check his emails. Or she turned down the volume on the radio so as not to wake the baby. Тобто ми можемо використати in order to і so as not to без всякого повноцінного речення. Після нього просто буде йти дієслово. For example, to check emails and to wake the baby. And manner. Yes, we have also manner, that is the most difficult one. As if, as though. As if, as though express like the manner we do something. Ніби. For example, she behaves as though she doesn't like me. Ніби я їй не подобаюсь. As though. We can also use as if. Jenny speaks Dutch as if she were a native speaker. Ось це ніби виражається as though і as if. And we can also use by. By is a preposition. We know that after preposition we need to use gerund. We can become fitter by taking daily exercise. Great. I see the correct answers. Very good. Let's go to practice. Давайте попрактикуємось. So let's look at these sentences and let's try to choose the correct option. Звичайно, на практиці воно краще видно, бо в теорії вони здаються всі однаковими, So let's look at number one. Although, or despite being overworked lately, Rosie still manages to do yoga every Friday afternoon. Despite, that's right, because we have what? We have ing ending. Після although, пам'ятаємо, although, though, even though має йти повноцінне речення. Має бути subject і потім дієслово. Let's go to number two. While, or since, Jamie is a natural athlete, he actually prefers playing music. Тут же потрібно знати значення слова while і since. So what do we express here? Do we express the reason, the result, the contrast? We express like the contrast, and we know that while is the same as although. Запам'ятайте, що while – це так само, як і although. Вона нам дає певне таке протиріччя. While Jamie is a natural athlete, he actually prefers playing music. Незважаючи на то, хоча Джеймі там атлет, йому подобається грати там на музичному інструменті. Okay, let's go next. In spite of or even though we play hockey at school, I have never taken part in a match. Дивимось на структуру, на граматичну структуру. What follows these two words? In spite of and even though. And we have even though because we have we and play. Ми знаємо, що після in spite of буде тільки інгове закінчення, буде тільки герундій або іменник. Okay, let's go next. Number four. It might be a good idea for you to captain the team today, whereas or seeing as. Seeing as or whereas it's your birthday. Ми б могли просто сказати because it's your birthday. So what can we substitute with because? Seeing as. Пам'ятаєте, що as і since – це те саме because, але вони використовуються в більш на офіційному письмі або мовленні. Seeing as is the same as or since. See and as – це таке саме, як since and as, and since. Okay, let's go to number 5. On account of, even though, his poor exam results, he wasn't able to secure a place at university. Через щось. On account of, that's the same as due to, that's the same as owing to. His poor exam results, he wasn't able to secure a place at university. And number 6, Max wants to play in the semi-final despite or since he believes he is in good shape now. So what do you think here? Max wants to play in the semi-final despite or since he believes he is in good shape now. Despite or since? Since. Ми знаємо, що since – це те ж саме because. Ми можемо сказати he wants to play because he believes he is in good shape now. That's why we need to use since. Great. So let's look at the last task. So that is a text. Let's try to fill in the gaps again with these linking words that we talked about today. So the joy of skiing. Skiing is a fantastic sport. You feel you were on the top of the world with the blue sky above you and the white scopes below. So what can we put here? Варіанти в нас є as though, as, consequently, due to, in order to, nevertheless, so as not to, and so that. Я сподіваюся, значення ми вже знаємо, розуміємо. So, skiing is a fantastic sport. You feel you were on the top of the world. Що нам з цього підійде? I see first variant. What else? And that is correct. As though. As though expresses manner. Пам'ятаєте? Це ніби. Ніби ти на вершині світу. As though you were on the top of the world. Great. Let's go next. A gap. When you go skiing, it's good to bear in mind a few safety tips. Що ми ставимо зазвичай на початку речення і виділяємо комою? Adverbs, правильно? What adverb can we put here? What conjunctive adverb can we put here? A gap. When you go skiing, it's good to bear in mind a few safety tips. It gives us some sense of contrast. Да? Тобто, в нас є якесь протиріччя. Nevertheless, that's right. Проте, when you go skiing, it's good to bear in mind a few safety tips. І потім у нас знову gap, пропуск, get hurt. A few safety tips, get hurt. So what do you think? What can we use out of this? So as not to. So it expresses the purpose для того, щоб не забитися. Great. So as not to. Great. Let's go to number 4. You might need it. Call for help. Давайте повністю прочитаємо. First of all, make sure you always keep your phone with you. You might need it. Call for help. You might need it. Call for help. So here we have a sense of purpose. So you need your phone для чогось. Call for help, щоб покликати на допомогу. You might need it in order to, для того, щоб. In order to is more formal, нагадую, да? Воно таке довше. Ви можете просто використовувати to. You might need it to call for help. Теж буде правильно. In order to і to, вони якби синонімічні, вони однакові. Let's go next. Secondly, we have a gap. The fact that weather conditions can change suddenly in the mountains, you should also have a snack and water with you at all times. Secondly, і в нас є вже тут fact. Які слова використовуємо з fact? У нас було 4 їх сьогодні. due to the fact, пам'ятаємо, due to the fact, owing to the fact, in spite of the fact, despite of the fact. Ось ці 4 слова, вони зазвичай йдуть зі словом fact. Due to the fact, owing to the fact, in spite of the fact, and despite of the fact. Great. Let's go to number 6. Skiing can be dangerous, but that doesn't seem to stop people. Skiing can be dangerous, but that doesn't seem to stop people. And then we have a gap. Dozens of people are injured or even killed every year. Skiing can be dangerous, but that doesn't seem to stop people. And then we have a kind of result. І потім у нас виходить якийсь результат. Dozens of people are injured or even killed every year. Consequently, that's right. Consequently is a synonym of so. Да, пам'ятаємо, що so у нас так само говорить про результат. So means result. We can substitute so with consequently or therefore. Great. Let's go to number 7. If you are a beginner, don't act. У нас тут є if. What do we use with if? Don't act. We have gap if you have been skiing for years and go down the black slopes. Don't act as if, ніби. Don't act as if you have been skiing for years and go down the black slopes. Exercise caution. Exercise caution means be careful. And we have the last one, so what is left? Exercise caution. So that you can enjoy the skiing experience again. So that is followed by a full clause. Бачите, що в нас тут є повне речення. You can enjoy. So that you can enjoy the skiing experience again. So, guys, I see our time is up, yes? So thank you so much for joining. I hope you remember some of these conjunctions and it will be easier for you at your exam. If you have any questions, you may text to the chat. Okay, I see no questions. Thank you so much and see you next Thursday.